Hello everyone, I'm Jay Coker, Chairman of the Board of Producers Rice Mill. We're coming to you with our first report for the 2025 growing season. As we review back where we are and where we've come from, we look back on 23 and 24. Those years, rice acreage increased each year. As we looked into 2025 and we got March 1st planting intentions that came out on March 30th, it looks like what was intended for us to actually plant at that date will not occur. We've had extreme weather events throughout the Mid-South, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, extreme periods of rainfall that will take some of the rice acreage and will render it not available to be planted in rice. We experienced two different extremes this spring. If you remember back, our March was extremely dry. We probably had almost unusually record dry weather in the last half of March. That allowed a lot of field work to be done. It did allow for some early rice to be planted, and actually on up into the first week of April, there had been quite a bit of rice planted in various parts of the state in certain situations. As we moved further into April, we started getting rainfall. Actually, we got 3 times the amount of rainfall in a lot of areas of Arkansas just in the month of April. If we play that forward into April and May, we've got data that certain climate zones in the state of Arkansas that actually coincide with where the rice is being grown in South Arkansas, Central Arkansas, Northeast Arkansas, Boot Hill, Missouri, across the river in Mississippi. These areas all registered rainfall that some of them were the #1 recorded amounts of rainfall in a 60-day period in 133 years. So we not only had the amount of rainfall during the days that reduced the amount of days that were available for field work, but we also had to deal with what was more problematic long-term was extreme flooding conditions that all that rainfall caused. The rice growing area is naturally in a drainage basin where these soils are best suited for rice production. So we had rivers all throughout Missouri, North Arkansas, Mississippi, all coming through these rice growing areas. They flooded, they backed out onto acreages. There's a lot of damage to infrastructure, levees, things like this that flooded land. Even when the rainfall stopped, farmers were dealing with significant flooding on their farms. The field that I'm standing in and the rice that I'm holding, this would represent rice that was planted during that early planting period when we were able to plant some acres. This would have been first week of April planted rice. So that is our optimum planting date. That's the initial beginning of optimum planting date for the rice growing area in the Mid-South. We talk about April 1 through about the first week, maybe even the second week of May as being our optimum planting dates, where research data has shown that we get the optimum yields and the management practices are best suited for the weather that we receive during the growing season of rice that's planted that first week of April. So we would anticipate this rice to be harvested at our normal time periods, the last week of August, 1st of September, and we would hope that this would represent normal yields, optimum yields based upon the planting dates and the management practices we're able to do on rice that's planted at this time period. The field we have moved to now is a field that we planted the first week of June, so you can see the difference between 1st of April planted rice during the early stage of our optimum planting date, and then this would be 1st of June planted rice. You can see the difference. Tillered out, well-developed plant, barely starting to tiller, 3 to 4 leaves. That's the difference in about 60 days of planting date. So research data shows that rice planted in the first week or so of June has an 80 percentile chance of reaching optimum yield. So for easy math, if we use 200 bushel green rice for a optimum planted rice field, we're looking at about a 40 bushel reduction in yield for the rice planted well past our optimum planting window. Talking to seed dealers, talking to people within the ag industry, the last week of May, going up into the first 10 days of June, there were significant amounts of rice seed being sent out, being planted, and fields still that were intended to be planted in rice. That was ongoing with some significant acreages in all various parts of the state of Arkansas. Just last week, USDA released their latest supply and demand report for long grain rice. They're projecting a 9% decrease in production. They noted that this is due to the significant spring rainfall in the rice production areas. Many within these areas feel like that number will grow. Up to 300,000 acres of rice that was intended to be planted will probably not be planted in these areas. That will result in an almost 15% reduction in long grain production. As we enter into the mid part of our summer growing season, we want to be hopeful that we're going to receive the optimum weather where the crop can produce as it should to reach maximum yield potential. We want to be thankful for the producers' farm families that chose to plant rice, to stick with rice, who feel like rice is an important part of their farming program. We want to also be mindful of the producers' employees. They're hard at work, milling, marketing, storing, still moving the crop from the previous year. We want to recognize them and the great job they do. We also cannot do what we do without our customers. We appreciate the confidence that you have in producers to provide you with your rice needs, what you're expecting regardless of the challenges we face in the field. We appreciate you having that trust in us to provide your needs. Thank you.